Time for a brand new edition of the Gimme the Hot Sauce podcast. We have not one, but two great guests. The esteemed K.C Johnson, the Bulls insider, is going to join us momentarily. And later, former Bull, former Pistons bad boy, and actor John Salley is going to join the show. So we are loaded up with all kinds of great stuff coming up. And Timmy Whispers is back from Fort Myers. Tell us the great weather you had while you were vacationing.
Well, you may have noticed already, I'm not Larry the
you're
Lobster.
Not very red, no.
So that's disappointing for everybody. But
you still are red.
Out of 14 days,
that's high blood pressure.
It rained 12. Just called being Irish. Okay?
Wow. Well, it's good to have you back.
Yeah, we missed you.
Jeez, no hugs, nothing, just a bunch of ridicule when I walked in here. It was great.
Well, that's how you know we missed
that's
you.
How you know we missed you. If we didn't say anything to you. If we didn't say anything to you,
you know there's a problem.
It's a locker room environment here that we like to keep it all about.
It's a
sports.
toxic environment.
That's true.
And Stacey's just back from the dentist, one of the great pleasures in life. How'd that go?
Oh, man. Just a little procedure, but you know when they numb your mouth?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
You know, and then they numb it. So it's like, oh, man, you start talking and, you know, you might start drooling at some point. So, America, if you see me drool, it's nothing wrong with me. My mouth is still numb. And you can't really eat anything because you might bite your lip.
But you just finished a sandwich.
Come on,
so
Mark.
You're going to see the blood dripping from the corners of his cheeks coming up.
Mark, you ain't got to tell everybody my business, okay? Okay, you're like an old refrigerator. You can't keep nothing in, man. Damn. I'm okay, America.
All right, well, that's good. Stacey's on the mend. Hey, let's bring in K.C. Johnson, who's kind enough to join us. Obviously, not in Toronto. We are recording as the Bulls are getting ready to take on the Raptors. K.C., a great flurry for the Bulls during December, but now we're seeing some signs of maybe regression to the mean. Where do you stand? I know I talked to you a couple of weeks ago, and you were saying that you're not 100% sold on this Bulls revival. Where do you stand a couple weeks later?
Well, I mean, they've got the 24th ranked offense. So, you know, even for the improved play, and obviously, you know, they did have a good December, but it didn't really translate to statistics. And, you know, the defensive improvement that you saw in December has really slipped in January. I mean, you guys, we see it all the time. And that Cleveland game to me was a perfect example of it. I mean, second chance points, not finishing the defense, not covering the 3-point line. I mean, they've given up 48, a 39, and a 40-point quarter in the last 3 games. So the Warriors, Spurs, and Cavaliers. So the defense is ranked 15th as we take this. And like I said, for all the talk about the improved offensive play, they have the 24th ranked offense, which is where they were last season. So it's definitely better than the 5-14 start, which, as you guys know, was unwatchable at times. But I don't know, man. It just seems like a lot of mediocrity on a nightly basis.
What has been your opinion since Zach now has come back and his play? You know, I've thought he has really tried to play the right way, tried to play the way Billy wants him to play, especially on the defensive end, some assists. I still think he's hesitating. He wants to go back to play his old way. You could tell certain stretches. I saw that in Cleveland the other night. Talk a little bit about what you've seen since Zach's been back, KC.
Yeah, I mean, the positives are what you mentioned, Stace. You know, the engagement on the defensive end and the assist totals have been up. He's still struggling to finish at the rim, which is really un-Zach-like. I mean, we watched him in that first quarter in Cleveland. He had 3 great opportunities right at the rim, and he missed them all. That's just not who Zach has been, and that's really kind of been the storyline to his season, is he's not shooting at the elite rate that we've come to expect from Zach the last couple of seasons. So you'd like to think it's going to revert to the norm at some point. But in terms of stylistically, I agree with you. I mean, the biggest takeaway that I have about his return is what Coby White has told me, and that is that Zach's like his biggest supporter. Like, hey man, I'm just trying to keep you in a rhythm. That's my goal. So, you know, all this talk, you know it. I mean, like, Zach's selfish, or, you know, he's cancer. I mean, I've never bought that stuff. I mean, he's a team first guy. I mean, Coby has been, you know, touting his acceptance, you know, ever since Zach came back. So you just like to see Zach regain his elite offensive form. And if that happens, then obviously the Bulls' ceiling and their potential rises.
Well, the reality of the situation is that since Lonzo Ball got hurt a couple of years ago now, I know the anniversary just passed a week or so ago, the team's been sub 500, and a lot of Bulls fans are crying for change. They just want to see change just for change's sake. You know, whether it's a big trade or a smaller move. What do you anticipate happening as we tape? We're 3 weeks exactly until the deadline. We've seen a couple of major trades go down with two of Toronto's best players being shipped out. What do you think the Bulls are going to do by February 8th, KC?
Well, I've reported, Mark, that, I mean, their main focus has been on Zach's future. I mean, it's well documented at this point that both the Bulls and Zach are open to finding him a new home. The problem is that they have not been able to really get any serious concrete offers for him. So with his market dried up, do they move off that stance and start listening to other situations? I mean, Alex Caruso draws interest every year at this time. DeMar DeRozan, as we all know, is up after this season, so you'd like to have his future figured out. Those are the three primary trade targets from my perspective. But I do know, as of a couple weeks ago, their main focus was trying to get a Zach trade done and then see how the roster looked after that move, and then make other decisions as they get closer to the February 8th trade deadline. With Zach's market non-existent pretty much to this point, like I said, they might have to move off that. There is a real possibility that they don't do much of anything. And, then they've pushed out all those decisions to the offseason, which, as we know, is the other, major time where trades can happen. But it has been crazy, to watch them kind of repeating this and repeating this and repeating this. And I know for a fact the Bulls are motivated to try to, find Zach a new home. But it takes two, sometimes three teams to get that done. And to this point, that has not been able to happen.
Well, and the one thing, K.C, you just, you hear, I mean, the Los Angeles Lakers, that's the destination I think Zach would prefer to go to, but they don't have anything that's really worth giving up Zach for. I mean, their name comes up for everybody. They're in every trade rumor that's possible. And when you don't have the assets, it makes it almost impossible to make a fair trade or even get close to that. Do you see them maybe possibly going somewhere else? Like, say, I always say if you're going to trade Zach, I would go to some of these younger teams that have all this surplus of talent, like Detroit, Oklahoma City, that has pieces and first round picks that possibly you could, work out a deal with them. What do you think about that?
Yeah, I mean, the Lakers one has always been the most rumored, but I mean, now there's been strong reporting. I've kind of reported it, not to this degree, but, I've reported that the Bulls don't have much interest in D'Angelo Russell and Rui Hachimura. I mean, if Austin Reeves were included, then you might have to have a conversation, but the Lakers have given no indication that would be the case. And now you've got very strong, like emphatic reporting from Brian Windhorst from ESPN and Dave McMenamin from ESPN saying there's zero chance the Lakers trade for Zach LaVine. And, in this new world of the CBA, three max guys, LeBron, Anthony Davis, Zach LaVine, that's pretty untenable for most rosters, even with a franchise that historically has not had any problem paying the luxury tax. So you can see why that stance is the stance. So to your point, Stacey, yeah, I mean, I'm sure that Arturas is pitching out ideas like that. I mean, one guy you'd like to, that you hear intrigued or linked to the Bulls of Jaden Ivey. I mean, that's the young talent you're talking about, but I have not heard any traction on any of those young teams or young talent. And I've not heard any interest from a team like Oklahoma City and Zach LaVine. And that's the problem, is the Bulls are motivated to try to find Zach a new home, but it takes another team, sometimes, like I said, two teams to get that done. And to this point, that has not come to fruition.
The DeRozan situation is interesting, KC. As you mentioned, he's going to be an unrestricted free agent at the end of the year. And Bulls fans remember with the previous regime with Gar and Pax that, guys like Joakim Noah and Pau Gasol walked out the door with nothing in return. And, Demar is in his 15th season. He'll be 35 before the start of next year. He's still playing at a really high level, but his shooting percentage has dropped off a little bit. He's been a little bit less effective in fourth quarters of late. Do you think now is the time to cash in what may be a depreciating asset, especially considering, as you've reported, the two sides have been pretty far apart on extension talks?
I mean, if you're asking for my opinion, or do you
your
think
opinion? Yeah.
And then I'll tell you what I think they're going to do. I mean, I thought the time to trade DeMar was last season because I thought his value would have been higher. And we don't, we're not privy to what was available to them at the trade deadline last year, right? So no one ever reported that. And so maybe there was not a lot of good offers or interest in DeMar DeRozan. But to me, the time to trade DeMar was last trade deadline, because then that team has him for 2 playoff runs, season and a half, gets his bird rights, and then can decide what they want to do with him. And I think that you would have gotten more for him a year ago at this time than you would now. I don't see a huge market for a guy that, as you mentioned, Mark, is going to be 35 and with an expiring deal. So that's why I fully believe that DeMar DeRozan will be on the Bulls next year. And to me, the example to follow is Nikola Vucevic. I mean, there's a guy expiring, was about to go to unrestricted free agency, and boom, the Bulls do a 3-year deal where they're kind of bidding against themselves. And I know for a fact that the Bulls incredibly highly value DeMar DeRozan on an internal basis, like not only for what he does on the court, but for what he does off the court. The young dudes love him. He's a model teammate, represents your franchise well. So, DeMar might be, he may not be ready for the possible pay cut that is coming his way. I mean, he's making $28.6 million. I don't see another team going past that. So the Bulls might be able to negotiate from a position of power. But I don't see DeMar DeRozan getting traded between now and February 8th. I see him re-signing with the Bulls this summer. And like I said, the Vucevic blueprint is what I'm following there.
One of the things I've been on the Coby bandwagon when everybody was yelling, trade Coby. I was the one to say, give him an opportunity. He hasn't really had a fair chance to show what he can do. They never given him the keys to the car. Now he's got the keys to the car. And I thought this year he's really had some huge strides, not only his ball handling, his defense, his decision making. But one thing, there's one knock that I have with his game right now is I think, K.C, I don't know if you've been watching this, is that he's shooting way too far out of his range now. Like, it's like it seems like his 3-point shooting is going from, the distance where it's supposed to be to like 29, 30. We've been charting it, in the truck for like the last, 5 weeks. And it seems like his range is getting further and further out, whereas you would think he'd be much more consistent inside that 30-foot range. It's like Steph Curry range. I always say the Denzel Valentine range, and sometimes that shot is necessary, K.C, because the shot clock's winding down, or it could be a rush, hurry, last second shot. But a lot of the times he's casting up from deep and it's not going in. Have you seen that of late?
Yeah, and you're in my ear every game, so I've heard the Denzel Valentine references, and I love them. But it's like, to me, and we've talked about this in the broadcast space. It's like teams are crowding him now. They're trying to turn him into a driver because, as good as much as he's improved as a finisher, he's still more potent from beyond the arc. So teams are crowding him, trying to make him go further out or put it on the floor. And I do think he's grown quite a bit in his decision making and his pick and roll ability and his finishing, but he's still definitely more lethal from beyond the arc. So, but I don't get a lot right. I get some right, but I get plenty wrong. But I got Coby right, and I got Lauri Markkanen right. Those are two.
Yeah, me too. Me too. I've been on those bandwagons from day one. And we used to fight with people all the time about the Coby, and I got into it. Patrick Williams. They said the same thing about Patrick Williams, and we saw when Patrick Williams gets consistent minutes and he knows he's going to play 30 plus minutes, his game is totally different than when he comes off the roll. Now, this is what I said was going to be interesting when Zach comes back. KC, what is his role? What will be Andre Drummond's role? And you've seen Andre Drummond the last couple of games not look like the Andre Drummond that was playing as a starter. It looks like his mind is not where it needs to be. I thought that first game back when he came off the bench, I thought, he didn't have a rebound for like 12 minutes. He didn't have a rebound, so I thought it affected him a little bit. What did you see in that?
Yeah, I mean, and by the way, I'm still not over the Lauri Markkanen trade. That's
me either.
Yeah, they'll never get that draft pick either.
Yeah, and who knows? Maybe he wouldn't have risen to this level in Chicago, but man, just a skilled, talented, athletic 7-footer. Man, oh man, I never understood that one. But anyway, I digress. No, I mean, Drummond. I've said this on the broadcast too, Stace. It's like he used to tell me, like, and even before he started for Vooch, even those 13, 14 minutes, he would try to get a double-double in those 13, 14 minutes. And then he got, obviously, extended minutes and it put up some huge numbers. And since then, he's just not made the same impact. And so he needs to bring that same mentality where he tries to get a double-double in 13, 14 minutes. I did like what Billy did in Cleveland. I don't think there's a place for that every game, but I think in that situation where you're getting crushed on the glass with second chance points, the double bigs worked. And they were out there for that huge run at the end of the third quarter that put the Bulls in the lead after they're down 21. So, look, Drummond's. I'll tell you, we're talking about the trade deadline. I know for a fact there's plenty of teams that have interest in Drummond. So if they put him into play, maybe just do a smaller move like that. If there's not a Zach market and nothing for Demar, I still would be surprised if they trade Caruso, because to me he's so important to their culture. But if you start moving into smaller moves just to do something, I mean, Drummond is somebody that if they put into play, I'm not saying you get a huge offer, but I know for sure there's 3 or 4 teams that would be interested in trading for that guy, because I've talked to scouts and executives around the league, and people have asked me about him, and I've said, to this point I haven't heard him being made available, but as you mentioned, Mark, that we're 3 weeks away from the trade deadline, so a lot can happen.
And he's got a friendly salary right now.
For sure. Yeah. He's a good player. You know that. I mean, you've always you've been on his bandwagon too. I mean, he's a good player. When you give him extended minutes, he showed you what he can do when Vooch was out.
Hey, K.C., I don't know if you saw the quote recently by Steph Curry. The Warriors are struggling, and he was asked about possible roster moves, and he said, well, the definition of insanity is doing the same thing and expecting different results. And I think that applies here in Chicago. As I mentioned earlier, the Bulls are sub 500 for the last 2 years. Why is this front office so resistant to making changes? We heard all the talk from AK about continuity, but at some point you have to realize this isn't working. I mean, the best we can be is the middle of the pack.
Well, it's funny you bring up that quote, Mark, because we heard that same quote from Billy Donovan in Nashville in training camp. And that's kind of what the vision was they were going to use this new kind of more democratic offense with fewer set play calls and less isolation and more ball and player movement and more stuff in transition and quicker decisions and getting up the court even after made baskets and getting into your offense faster and, just move the ball. It doesn't matter who's shooting, blah, blah, blah. And like I said at the top, we're still looking at the 24th ranked offense, which is exactly where they were last season. So to your question, I mean, their thinking was it was going to be different this year. And while it has looked better and they won more in December, they're still in the same spot, chasing the play-in, 24th ranked offense. So, I can understand fans' frustration. But I always say, like, when it comes to trades, it has to make sense for both sides, and you need another team to show interest. So I'm going to repeat this again. Like, the Bulls are ready to trade Zach LaVine, but they're not going to just salary dump him. And, they need somebody to show interest with a legit offer. And to this point, that has not come to fruition.
Well, and you look at all these other teams around that are making these deals. Look what the Pacers just did to get Siakam. And that really strengthens their team. I mean, that was probably the one piece, that they really, really needed to go with that young athletic team. He leads the number 1 fast breaking team in Toronto, and he's going to the number 2 fast breaking team in Indiana. So you can't tell me that doesn't fit. Plus, he's a guy that's going to get you 20 plus a night. He's going to guard the best player at that position. And that's only going to make that team, because they've been struggling defensively because they can score with anybody. But now to get a guy like that, an all-star caliber player that can defend, it's going to force everybody else to play defense as well.
Well, the other reason I love that move, Stace, is like Indiana's not a place that goes out and gets big free agents. No. So you're basically getting your free agent via trade there. And they're not giving up 3 first-round picks unless they already have talked to the agent, negotiate a contract. He's re-signing there, okay?
Yes,
so,
yes.
And to your point, man, like, you'd go trap Halliburton now in the playoffs, and, Siakam is the king of that short roll, get it at the dotted line, 3-on-2, 4-on-3 situations and reading the defense. He's great with that length and his ability to spray it out to 3-point shooters. So if you trap Halliburton, look out, man. Siakam is very dangerous as kind of like that short roll release valve. And I just love that fit for Indiana. I thought that was a fantastic trade. And, again, it's people can balk at the price tag, but to me, you're paying for a free agent there. And I think he's a perfect fit in Indiana. And look, they're ahead of schedule. So that's why they made the bold move. So kudos to them for getting that done.
And how about the other Raptors trade, sending Anonoby to New York? Did you see his minutes the last 2 games with Tibbs, 43 and 44? I think they're calling him OL Deng in New York.
Yeah. I mean, the Deng reference was immediate. Like, the day of the trade, I saw several people make that connection, and I couldn't agree more. He's like the jack of all trades, not really spectacular anyway. I may be in the minority here. I may be wrong. I've never been a huge Anonoby fan. I think he's a little overrated for my taste. I like the move for New York, but I think it's one of those trades that's good for both teams. To me, that wasn't a big needle mover either way. Whereas with the Siakam trade, to me, again, Toronto got a nice haul, but I think this is a needle mover for Indiana. So, but yeah, Anonoby, he's gonna be logging some minutes for old Tom. Sure.
Oh yeah. All right, let's change gears. Let's talk about the event the Bulls put together last week, the Ring of Honor, which I thought was really good intentions, and it really had a place where like the event was really awesome. If everybody could have been there, but all the people who did come, I thought it was a great event. I had a lot of fun, seeing Neil and some of these older guys coming back, Artis Gilmore, some of the legends that came back. I thought it was awesome seeing Luke Longley come in from Australia. But there was a black eye, Casey. There's a black eye, at the game, with Thelma Krause, and you were there. You know Miss Krause very, very well. Talk a little bit about what you saw, because I know I was pissed. I mean, if I could have went out on the floor and put my arms around that lady, I would have. Man, it broke my heart to see that, man. And I know people have this feeling about Jerry Krause in Chicago, and I said this the other day to someone. I said, listen, Jerry's gone. He can't hear your boos. Okay, he's gone. Okay, his family is there. Regardless if they were booing her or not, his wife's there, his daughter, his grandkids, his family is there to accept this award. Can you have just a little bit of civility to allow those people to enjoy that moment? And they didn't do that. And that was really sad.
Well, so many things. I mean, first of all, I'm glad you brought up kind of the whole 2-day event, because I was privileged enough to be there on Thursday as well. I loved your spot with Neil in the private dinner and gala, and there was a media red carpet a scenario on Thursday night, and just and this as well as anybody stays, because I'm assuming at some point they're going to honor your guys 91-92 team, because that certainly deserves Ring of Honor status. Like when teammates get together, man, all the BS just falls by the wayside. Man, you're just falling into old roles. It's just like you're back in your groove, you're back in your element. And so to see the joy on those guys' faces on Thursday night behind the scenes at that private dinner and gala was just fantastic. I went up and said hello to Phil. I mean, he was at the head table with Steve Kerr and Chip Schaefer and Al Vermeil, and it's just everybody falls into their own rhythms. And that's why it would have been great if everybody had come back, because the ones that did come back, man, the joy talking to Harper and Bushler and Longley, it was palpable. So I'm glad you broadened it. It was not just about what happened with the unfortunate situation with Jerry and Thelma. Speaking to that, I would just say this, I've loved the people who have said, well, they weren't booing her, and as soon as she was placed on the scoreboard, they stopped booing. So let me get this straight. It's okay to boo a dead man?
Yeah, exactly.
It's like that makes it better. You're booing a dead man.
and knowing the importance of why they were booing there, that the family was right there in the front row. I mean, come on, man. That's Bush League excuses.
Yeah, so I reacted immediately on Twitter and said it's absolutely criminal they booed Jerry Krause. I loved what you said on our broadcast, Stacey, and I've told you that personally. And then yeah, I mean I've gotten to know Thelma very well. I mean, my relationship with Jerry changed dramatically in the later years of his life, and I've gotten to know the whole family well. And she's a remarkable woman, man. And I know you've touched on this on Twitter too, Stacey. She is such a kind and sweet and strong person. And every time I talk to her, she just refused to turn this into a negative. I mean, she obviously had the well-publicized incident where she broke down, but from there on, it's just been all strength. And the strength arises from her own character, but also all the incredible amount of outreach. And it's starting to come out. Like, I knew about this, but she didn't want me to make it public. But now, it's getting out there. Like Isaiah Thomas was on NBA Sirius XM radio today. He reached out to her. The franchise ad nauseum reached out to her. Jerry, Michael, what you name it. Adam Silver, NBA Commissioner Adam Silver called Thelma Krause. I mean, so the outpouring of support has fortified the strength that she began to show herself. And man, I said this, in pregame in San Antonio on the pregame show, we could all learn a little bit from her, man, to show that much strength and grace under pressure and in a moment of duress. And yes, she broke down in the initial moment, but she stayed out there and clapped for other people. Yes. She clapped for Phil Jackson right after that. It's man, we could all learn a lesson from that woman. And I just have all the respect in the world for her. And, to your point, like, it's still coming, like Bill Cartwright unsolicited called me yesterday and said, I want to print a letter. How do I get that done? I said, I'm your guy. So you can go to our website, NBCSportsChicago.com, and read Bill Cartwright's letter defending Jerry Krause's legacy. And we don't need to litigate, whether he's a good guy or what he did or the breakup of the dynasty. Just, I always say, like, why can't you just celebrate 6 championships?
Yeah.
You played on 3 of them. You were around for the other 3. It's like, why can't that be a happy thing? Why does it have to be a happy
thing? Here's the thing too, K.C., that I think that's lost in all of this, except for that moment, was that Thelma's had to endure this for like 40 years. Like, she's had to hear her husband being booed every time they used to come to the United Center for a retirement or jersey, hanging. He would get booed and she would be there. And she had to endure that for so many years. And the one time that people could have made it right for her, that's what really upset me about it. The one time you could have said, hey, look, Jerry's not here. Yeah, I don't like what he did, and I think The Last Dance kind of like really like brought the old wounds back from The Last Dance. I'm a big believer that brought a little bit of that stuff back. But to see her, to see her up on the screen and like, just heartbroken, because I don't care what nobody says. It was loud. They can say whatever they want to. Oh, it was only a few people. When we got noise canceling headphones on, and I heard it through my headset, and I was like, "Are they booing?" And then I was like, "No, because I've heard people say, "Oh, only a few people, only 1,000 people boo." That's 1,000 too many. Period.
Exactly. And to your point, man, like, so I spent the entire weekend in Springfield, Massachusetts with the family, Thelma, the kids, the grandkids. And I moved that through that entire Hall of Fame weekend with the Krause family. And I felt privileged to do that. And I reported it. I was working for the Chicago Tribune at the time. I reported that for the Chicago Tribune. And like, that weekend brought them so much peace. Man, they just reveled in that honor and they just were in such a good place. And then I completely agree with you. The Last Dance just ripped up a whole bunch of old wounds and then it just got raw that night. And it's just not a good thing, man. It's like, I like to focus more on what I've seen since then than that moment. Because if you go back and just think about that moment, it's just like I still get kind of just grossed out by it. It's just awful.
It's forever like etched in my mind. I mean, I literally, I was just blown away by it. I was just like, how could this be going on like right now? Like, I was just blown away that anyone would be doing that under those circumstances. Because again, it's not like Jerry is there. It's not like Jerry walked out on the floor and he's just sitting in one of those chairs. It's over and done with. You got, at some point, fans have to move on and remember that, hey, there's like 10 teams out there in the NBA who don't even have one championship. One. We got 6.
That's what I mean. Like, why can't this be a happy thing?
Exactly.
Like, why is there, why? And to me, The Last Dance contributed to this too, because I didn't, everyone else was talking about how much they loved that. I didn't love that at all. It was so unsettling for me to watch that, because obviously it was well done. I'm not ripping the documentary. It's incredibly well done. It came out at a time when it was incredibly unifying because of the pandemic. I get all that, but it was like relitigating like just dumb stuff and bringing up old wounds. It's like, why can't it all be celebratory? It's like one of the greatest sports dynasty in the history of professional sports. I just don't understand why it can't be more positive. Why it just, now there's like this taint to it. And I just do not understand that. And one last thing about it, like, Stacey, I'm like you. I'm working at halftime a lot, so I was like writing some stuff, and I was kind of half paying attention to the ceremony. Obviously when Phil's thunderous ovation happened, I looked up, but like I was kind of like half zoning out and half focusing on work, and all of a sudden I was like, wait, are they booing? I'm like, what? I couldn't believe it. I was, and people say, oh, the Bulls should have foreseen that. I was personally shocked by it. I couldn't.
And I don't blame the Bulls because you would think after all this time, after how many GMs have been here and taken over since Jerry Krause, is that his legacy is solid here. I don't care what anybody says. They can sit up there and say he was a bad GM. He broke up the championship years. Listen, Jerry's biggest thing, K.C., and you notice, he's probably told you this. He didn't want to end up like the Celtics, where the team was old and they were broken down. The injuries had hurt them. He's always said that. And so if you remember after that last championship, him and the bridge of repair with Phil was never going to be fixed.
Oh,
That was a done deal. But the injuries that they had, Scotty being hurt, you had other guys hurt. Micheal had slit his finger or his thumb or something with the cigar thing. So there was a lot of things that said that team wasn't going to repeat, even if they brought it back. Now we don't know because Micheal Jordan in a playoff series is in a championship is undefeated. So that gives you hope. Fans saying, "Well, Michael's never lost in the finals. Maybe they don't lose in the final. Maybe he gets his finger fixed and they win." We don't know that, but he took a lot of unnecessary, missiles towards him, and I think it's unfair because if his name was Jerry West, there'd be 20 statues here in Chicago, about him, but his name is Jerry Krause. And when the players talked about him the way they did, Michael, Phil, all these guys, he became the bad guy. He wears the bad hat. And it's unfortunate and it's unnecessary.
Yeah. And we can go down the litany of moves he made. Think about all the Hall of Famers that he hired or acquired. Tex Winter, Phil Jackson, Scottie Pippen, Dennis Rodman, Tony Kukoc. I'm sure I'm missing some. Those are just off the top of my head. Hall of Famers all acquired by Jerry. And yes, he inherited Micheal Jordan. We get it. But, he did an incredible job. So we're on the same page on this. And I hope the next Ring of Honor class it does not have any trouble associated with it because it should be a celebratory event, and it largely was. You started by talking about that. I was there Thursday night. That was an awesome event.
It was awesome.
You could see the event, the joy that all those guys had being there, and that's how it should be. It should be a happy occasion, not a controversial one.
Well, K.C., we know you got to run, so you get spared the indignity of having to answer a Whispers question. So next time we'll let Whispers ask you 2 questions.
Oh, geez, I got a good one.
We appreciate your time, and we advise everybody to follow your work at NBCSportsChicago.com.
One of the best in the business.
As we lead up to the NBA trade deadline, of course, you see his great work courtside with Adam and Stacey during the game broadcast. So thanks, K.C. We appreciate it.
And sometimes I know I think your run is over because Adam's done with football, but you were always so gracious to me and also to Adam for letting you sub in. But I love it when you call the games, Mark, and happy you got to do as many as you did this year. So thanks for having me on, guys.
Yeah,
peace
way
out.
to blast.
Thanks, KC.
Thanks, KC.
Right.
K.C.
Right,
Johnson, the Bulls insider for NBC Sports Chicago. Coming up next, another treat. We'll talk about the ceremony. John Salley was in town for that reunion. We'll get his thoughts and a whole lot more with Spider Salley. That's next on Gimme the Hot Sauce. Welcome back to Gimme the Hot Sauce. It's now our pleasure to welcome in a very special guest. He's John Salley, the first player to be an NBA champion in 3 different decades, and now he's floating somewhere in the universe. We love the background, John. Thanks for joining us today. And I know you were in Chicago for the Ring of Honor ceremony. What was that experience like, getting to visit with old teammates and share some old stories?
It was great. Judd Bushler and Steve Kerr and what's the other guy's name? No, Bill Withers. They when I got on the squad, even though James Edwards and Dennis Rodman was there, those 3 guys made sure I knew how to get to the airport, best way of getting to the game. It was great. They were really good guys. And that team that I was on, way better than the first 3 championships.
No, you didn't.
It was so good to see him, and I remember that they looked out. I'm so happy for Steve Kerr. I'm happy for all of them, and but it was really good. And I was surprised when they called me. Like Matt will tell you, I hung up the first time. I just thought it was some Chicago wants me to come back for what, and then I said, yeah, I can't miss it. When I said I'm going to Chicago, they were like, middle of January. It's like the beginning of January. It's going to be okay. And I forgot where cold and snow came from, but I found out real quickly.
Now talk a little bit about you coming from Detroit, being the Detroit bad boy, which is, always been, we had great rivalries with you guys. And the one thing I could always say, playing against you and that team, like you were never, even though you was a bad boy, you wasn't really a bad boy. You always were like the nicest guy. Like I could always talk to him. He'd give me dap, good game. And I never had an ill feeling towards him like I did some of the other guys. And so that's one thing I always remembered about Sal, because Sal was like, Sal and Mahorn were the 2 guys that were like, they would play within the rules. They play hard. They'll hit you. They'll play physical. but they play within the framework of the rules. And then there were some other people that played outside the framework of the rules, but we understood it was rivalry. We understood it. How was it when you got the call from Jerry Krause to come play for the Bulls and on that second three-peat?
Let me tell you, I was in Toronto and so just to let everybody know, I was the only free slave in the NBA. Meaning I bought my rights. Frederick Douglass, shout out to Frederick Douglass, he showed me how to do it. No, I bought my rights. So when it came time when Toronto granted me my waivers, and you put your waivers, whoever called, they had to call me. And because I wasn't just going anywhere, I wasn't just going to show up because somebody was like, well, we picked up your waivers, so you got to be with us. I was pitching my late night talk show, and I was in the meeting with the president of Sony, my agent and my manager, and my pager's going off, and I'm trying to be cool by not looking at it. And then it just kept going off, and I looked down, and it said Jerry Krause, Chicago Bulls. And my agent was a big basketball fan. So he said, what are you going to do? I said, can I use your phone? And I called. He goes, long, tall. This is my last time calling you. And I was like, what's up? He said, do you want to be a Chicago Bull? I was like, yeah. He said, all right, so give me like 2. You in shape? I stay in shape. You know what I'm saying? This is, people were paying me to go to the gym. Right now, I got to pay to go to the gym. So I was no problem with that. And 2 weeks later, after the All-Star game, I was there. And they asked me if I knew the offense. I was like, yeah, I know the offense. I mean, if Stacey King could do it, I could do it. If Lucky Lefty could do it, I could do it. No, so I loved it too, man. I always liked the offense. I like Phil. MJ and I go back like in the 80s. 82 was the first time I seen him or met him. And just going there, I knew they were going to win the championship. And I had this thing about winning. I like it. So whatever was needed, I had no problem doing.
It was really interesting with Jerry Krause. He always wanted to have experienced players on hand to play specific roles. During the first three-peat, he brought in some guards, guys like Trent Tucker and Bobby Hansen. And in the second three-peat, it was yourself. It was Buda Edwards. Robert Parrish played on the team in '97. How valuable is it to have veterans who've been through the wars who aren't going to crack under the pressure of an NBA conference finals or a finals?
I put it this way: if I ever were going into the Amazon, I would want someone who lives in the Amazon. I wouldn't want an old Jewish lady from Long Island telling me how to do it. I think you make a left over here, Sonny. No, so I knew that it was going to be an idea. He wanted professionals, and I really was big on being professional. And you pick it up fast. You know what to do when you're on the road. You know what to do when you're playing at home. You know what it's like when the clock is running down. You don't have somebody out there who doesn't understand the position or the method. So I understood it. I remember when the reason I didn't come back for the second year or the three-peat is they took Robert Parrish because Jerry Krause told me that he wasn't going to pay me. He was going to pay me like $360,000. And I was like, that's what Michael makes a game. You know what? I'd be clowned. I'd be clowned if I took one of his day payments and spent, the entire season doing it. And then he told me he didn't have the money, but he really wanted Robert Parrish. He was a fan of the Boston Celtics, and he wanted Robert Parrish on his squad. And Robert only played 9 games and then didn't like Michael Jordan. So it wasn't, I love Michael. And I like Michael so much that my career after my television career, I said, oh, he's not the greatest of all time. The reason I would say that is I knew that I was going to be all over the news. and MJ,
going viral.
Was like, why are you doing that? I go, well, if everybody says you're the Messiah, you know what I'm saying? Like, you can't do it. Somebody has to say something. And I would hold on to it. I would hold on to it. I would play with it. He knew I would say it. And I'd be like, if Michael was the greatest, ask him who the greatest basketball player of all time. He's not going to say him. and he wouldn't say I'm the greatest player of all time. Maybe now after a couple of cognacs, but not in his sober mind.
Now, talk a little bit about what it was like being on one of the teams that everybody loved to hate, the Piston Bad Boys, when you guys traveled and you were on the road, and the fan support or lack of it, compared to what it was like being on the Beatles with Micheal and that team. What are the comparisons?
The difference is when you go into a town and you're wearing black and you got a black horse and you're walking in slow and everybody goes, that was the feeling. We're about to walk in the saloon, there's going to be something. And no matter what it was. In Boston, somebody would set the alarms off in the afternoon so we couldn't sleep. They did it in a couple of places. But then I came to the Bulls, and it was like traveling. We were the Beatles, but we had Michael Jackson, Elvis Presley. What are the other two guys you would say? John Lennon. It was a trip on how it was the most amazing travel experience. The security, the way other teams, you go into other places and you're a Chicago Bull and you come out, there's no Bulls. Like people came to the game to see you go against their home team. So it was entirely different. In Detroit, we had to watch out for flying bottles.
Yep.
We had to make sure somebody else ordered our food. It was entirely two different worlds. It was like I don't even know tell you politically because it wouldn't be. I don't know what your favorite fan base is like, but it was a crazy situation like Obama. Okay, everybody can say what they want. More people wanted to see Obama than any president in the world, and that's what it was like being on Chicago Bulls.
Stacey experienced firsthand Micheal Jordan's competitiveness in practice. Teams now barely practice at all anymore. What was it like for you joining that squad? Mid-season. Micheal was on a mission after losing to Orlando the previous year. What was he like in practice on a day-to-day basis?
Well, we did practice, and it was intense. I always tell the story how he switched the squads up, and he put me, Dennis, and James Edwards on one squad with Ron Harper and Randy Brown, and he just had on regular skippies, like canvas shoes, like he was playing for the Celtics, and he was so intense, so trying to go back at it. And I love the block shots, and if I don't block shot, I block you. And he went flying past my head. And I always, said something. I called my mom's back at the hotel. I was like, yeah, I just saw the greatest player of all time. Johnny, you knew that. Everyone's saying. I said, yeah, but I wasn't going to give it to him. I literally saw it. Like he damn near was playing barefoot and was playing the same way with sweats on. So I know Stacey and Stacey is sensitive and emotional, and I know Micheal could be really hard on somebody who really felt. You had to be like a tough skin and not say anything. And he didn't expect anything out of us except to play the same way we did in Detroit, all out. Nothing's more important than the win. No guy's bigger than the whole team, and if we're gonna lose the game, we're gonna win the fight. It was definitely an idea, an ideology that we followed.
Talk a little bit about the times you guys were dominant. You guys had to get through Boston to finally get a chance to win a championship, and in the Lakers, you guys did that. You got two in a row. Talk about your mindset going against this young Chicago Bulls team that was on the come up after beating Cleveland. MJ hits the shot. What was your mindset playing against the Bulls? Because it always seemed to us, like our younger guys who came into it a little bit later, that you guys had this bully complex. Like you guys just felt like you could beat the Bulls at any time, any place, anywhere. It just didn't matter. Is that what your mindset was?
Well, it was also factual.
Oh my God. Oh my God.
It was one thing, it was factual. We knew to attack. You can, I put it this way, no matter how big and strong a tire may be, there's a little valve on it that you can sit and poke into and it will let all the air out of it. And we felt at that time we could attack what we thought was making the team roll, and that was Scottie Pippen. And because he played so many positions, we knew if we took out the shooter or take out the important part of the artillery, that we would have a chance. Because we knew Michael wasn't going to pass. He didn't trust anybody else. He wasn't passing the ball to him. They didn't totally take on the triangle offense until Phil Jackson got there. And they won from that point on. But at first, our mentality was, let's just take Scotty out and push Michael to his left. And, he scored 63 on us with that idea. So we said, let's push him to the left and everybody come at him. You know what I'm saying? If somebody else beats us, great. So we had this mentality, and it was a trip because people wanted to call us bullies, but it was really the Boston Celtics who were the bullies. They were, James Worthy even said it, like, those are some hard working guys that would come after you. So we understood once we got past Boston, which was to us almost a championship, and the Lakers, we knew we matched up. The crazy thing is, the year Michael hit the shot on Elo, Cleveland was a problem for us. We had lost all 4 games we played against Cleveland. So we were waiting, going, that's going to be a hard matchup for us. And then when we got Chicago, we already had a plan, and the plan worked for us. So it worked to our benefit. We knew we got cheated. Oh, I can't say that. I don't want to be fined. In 1988. But we back then, if you had a nucleus or you had a team and you barely won, they didn't blow the team up like they do in football. They get rid of the coach, get rid of the general manager, fire the water boy. All that kind of stuff. It was like, all right, we know what to do. We got to build on it again. And we built on it.
You won another championship with the Lakers. Phil brought you back. Ron Harper was on that team for a while. Horace Grant. What was that like for you guys to talk about, one last hurrah playing out in Los Angeles for the Lakers?
I don't think we ever talked about it. We more talked about Ron Harper's son, Dylan Harper, is like #1 player in the top, I'm going to say top 5 high school players in the country. We talked about that. I watched them drink at the bar. And, I just saw a lot of gray hair, and I didn't know who was paying for it. But it felt like Chicago because the bar closed, but they were still down there and the bar didn't close. So that was the pull that I loved to see when we were in Chicago.
Talk a little bit. Okay, I'm going to go back to this. Okay, so we beat you guys. We finally beat you guys. Okay, beat you on your home floor. Because remember in the walkthrough, we were on the floor. And you guys are supposed to come in and shoot right after us. And then I remember Bill Laimbeer was back in the hallway talking trash. Get off the court. It's our time. And, and then Scotty did the little broom thing. Like, we're going to sweep you. And then we swept you. Yeah. We swept you. You were the only one, I think Joe Dumars, and because we really calculated who did it, didn't walk off the floor at the end of that game. And you shook hands, said, congratulations. Hey, good luck. Go win this, boom, boom. And I think everyone from that point on had a little bit different respect for certain guys on that team compared to other guys. And I thought it was a black eye for the Pistons after that, because people looked at Isaiah a little bit differently after that. What was your thought process during that time when the fame, I don't want to shake your hand type thing happened?
What happened was in 1989, we were beating the Celtics and we were playing in the Silverdome, and it was 1:10 left, and Adrian Dantley was on the foul line, and and Danny Ainge, Larry Bird, Parrish, and Micheal were walking off the court in the middle of the game, just as if we weren't there. They walked through us and off the court, and only Micheal reached back to Isaiah and said, bring the trophy to the East. That's it. And they walked off. And so when Bill Laimbeer said, hey, we were about to lose, he said, let's give it to them like the Celtics gave it to us. And I remember going to Chuck Daly. I said, Chuck, put me in the game. And he was like, Sal, you can't get any more points. It doesn't even count on your stats. I go, no, there's something about to go down I don't want to be a part of.
Exactly.
And he goes, what? I go, yeah, it doesn't look good. You got to put me in the game. So he puts me in the game. Begrudgingly, he puts me in this game. And I see it happening. and I watch it happen. But, you know, it wasn't that I wasn't a team guy. I would have done it because we did it as a team. It was, one, I was friends with these guys, with Horace from college. I would give Scotty my tickets. MJ and I are fraternity brothers. It wasn't, to me, it wasn't the way to do it. But it was said that that's how we were going to get it done. I didn't like it, so I didn't want to be a part of it. In hindsight, I did it the right way because we're having this conversation, and I was able to be on the Bulls. Because I knew this was my career, and I wasn't ready to do anything that I didn't think was worthy of my career. And plus, they didn't look to see who walked off court. You know, those guys was already, you know, done and finished with their mentality. I'm in my last year of a contract, right? So I'm about to be traded or get a new contract. I was way smarter than that. I'm a chess player, not a checkers player. And I don't believe in hate, and I don't believe in that kind of stuff. And I didn't hate you guys. You know, Chicago Bulls brought me in 1986 3 times. And one of the times I was with Dick Vermeil, right? Dick was sitting there. Dick kept saying, we should take this kid. They go, nah, we're going to take Brad Sellers. And I would say, well, that was a bad pick. And I told Krause, every time I play against you, I'm going to act like it's a home game. And I had a chip on my shoulder to try to prove to everybody I was better than Brad Sellers. So I'm playing for one. You usually have to have something just to play for, not just being a pro. You need some things. Bill Bradley said, if you play for someone else, you usually play harder. So I played to prove to them that they made a bad pick in 1986. I was correct. And I was so, I guess, intense when I saw that red and white. When I got into the stadium, I had already picked my loft downtown. You couldn't tell me I was not going to be a Bull in 1986. And when they called Brad Sellers' name, and I was still sitting there like, wait a minute, I didn't go to San Antonio. I went to Detroit. Are they going to pick me? I can't believe I got my whole family here. The NBA doesn't realize if I don't get picked in the first round, we're tearing this entire place down. There's gunshots everywhere.
Oh,
We're tearing
my
it down. So I was so relieved when they picked me, but I never forgot those other 10 teams that passed me up that year were getting the business every time I played against them. So I had a real cool chip on my shoulder, and that's how I played, and that's why I played with that intensity. And they were going to know my name. They were going to know they made that mistake. You know, it was a trip too. Playing against Stacey so we won the championship when Stacey comes in, and then we're going back into go our second time. He was hard to play, and he's left-handed, and I thought I was left-handed at one time, but he was really left-handed.
He said it one time.
Because I did everything, because everybody was right-handed, so I did everything I could left-handed, and all of a sudden he comes in, I go, this kid that turnaround was no joke. Hated it, couldn't block it. He would go to my right, that means I had to use my left. He was using his left. They were like, come on, man, he's a kid, Sal. I was like, I know, this kid can play. You know, it's not like Horace. I know what he's going to do before he does it. Yeah, he was a tough guy to play against. Tough cat.
My first gig, because I didn't know how serious the rivalry was between the Bulls and the Pistons. I remember at Oklahoma, because we had Harvey on my team at Oklahoma, and we used to watch the games on WGN. And the game that I saw was when you guys played at the stadium where Rick Mahorn body slammed Johnny Bach on the table, and there was this big brawl. It was Juwan Oldham versus Rick Mahorn at first, and everybody got on the floor. And I remember seeing Johnny Bach just get suplexed on the scorer's table. And I was like, that's what I knew. I'm like, whoa. And then Harvey said, yeah, man, they be going at it. And then my first indoctrination, I think we played you guys in a preseason game. You guys had Scott Hastings. Scott Hastings on your team. And it was his first year, and he was like, he'd never been known as a guy that's a tough guy. You know, he's a good player, good skill player, but never known as like a Detroit Piston type of guy. And I think he was trying to prove that he could be that guy. So my first game against you guys was probably the preseason. I'm going in for an offensive rebound, and he clotheslines me and pulls me to the floor. And then, of course, I have to get up, and now I know the rivalry is real, so I got to try to throw a two-piece. I get ejected, he gets ejected, and then I'm in the locker room downstairs, and then I remember Al Vermeil and them came up to me and said, welcome to the NBA. This is what you can expect from this team. So that's when I knew the rivalry was real. And then in Detroit, when we came there, and that's when the fan bases were real knowledgeable. I mean, it was hate. There was no, they hated you. Like Detroit hated Chicago. Chicago hated Detroit. You couldn't even go out. I was scared to go outside in Detroit. So, hey, yo, King, I'm gonna come pick you up. Let's go to dinner. No, let's have room service in the hotel. I'm not going out. Because it was that serious. You could get hurt being in somebody else's city that you have a major rivalry with.
Let me tell you, so my guy, Gary Footlick, shout out to Gary Footlick, his son is Jesse and Robbie. Jesse's son was at the Ring of Honor too. I didn't get to see him. There was too many folks there. But he took me to a place in Little Italy. And when I walked in, it was like a casino movie. The ladies had the poof hair. Yeah. And I walked in and they just stared at me. They were just looking at me. And I said to him, what's the deal? He goes, oh, don't worry about them. I was like, it's called the Rose. And I was like, my man, am I going to end up in a freezer before I get to the game? Like, what is happening in this real Chicago Italian restaurant? And I said, I'm going to get poisoned. I know I'm going to get poisoned. They finally waited on us. And I said, Gary, why would you do that? He goes, no, this is a nice place. We're on the wrong side of the track. I'm not going to make it out. But you're right, man. I had so much room service because playing in Detroit, no matter where we were to go, people knew. And that's because the tickets were affordable. And now, you got to sell one of your children and part of your house to get a ticket to a game. Yep. To watch everybody throw the ball up from as far as possible. And think about this. We were watching, the game was on, we're sitting there in the Ring of Honor, and we're watching the game, and Chicago scores 75 in the first half. Yeah. So I'm sitting next to Steve. I said, Steve, I'm going to call your assistant when I come up to San Francisco. He said, no, call me directly, Sal. I said, how is it? When's Draymond coming back? He goes, Sal, Chicago just scored 75 in 2 quarters. I said, hey, I'm watching in the back. That's why I didn't want to come in the locker room. I don't want you to say I'm or anybody else is the reason you lost. Yeah. So I didn't go meet any of those guys. I didn't say anything. Just to see the way these guys are scoring now and the way the game is played. If I was allowed to do what Embiid was doing, hey, shoot a 3 when you want to, drive when you want to, elbow when you want to, barely take a jump shot everybody gets to shoot the ball. In Detroit, just imagine Chicago scored 75 in the first half. We would keep teams under 85 for the game. Yeah. So there would have been so many fights in the locker room, our locker room, like, how are you letting your man do this before we got out to the court and transferred it? It's an entirely different game, a different feel. And I just laughed. I laughed because I go, man, that would have been a fight right there. That would at least been a little tussle to make them realize, stop what you're doing. Like if you scoring a lot of points on a veteran back in the day, they'd be like, young fella, calm it down. Yeah, yeah. Calm it down. Yeah. And he'd be like, I'm going to go for 40. You about to get 40 broken ribs if you do this again.
Yeah. There was hard fouls. Guys just wasn't able to go to the basket. And if you got to the basket, you were always thinking of where that blow was coming from the next time you went to the basket. Is it coming from the top, the side, baseline? You don't see that now. It's like a quarterback league in the NFL, protect everybody.
That's a good way of putting it. I'm stealing that, Stacey King.
Hey, you can have it. You go ahead and have it with your little planet back there, your little planet Earth back there. You can go ahead and have it. Look like one of the Marvel characters. Sal, you probably don't remember this. When I came out of college, I met you for the first time in L.A. And I don't remember. Really? Yeah, it's L.A. Me, one of my boys, we came, we just graduated. We came out this summer because he was from L.A. And you were asking me, hey, what y'all doing? You know, John, Salley, you came up and introduced yourself. I know you. I saw you come. I saw Georgia Tech when y'all came to Norman and played Wayman. I was at that game.
Yeah.
So
oh my God,
yeah. You remember y'all got destroyed. But I remember. I was at that game when you guys came. Mark Price is a good friend of mine too. So you said, hey, what are y'all doing tonight? And we was like, we don't know, man. We ain't, we college kids, man. Hey, I got tickets for y'all. You guys go to the Midsummer Night Magic game. And then they having a party over at the Century Club. And I want you guys to have y'all name on the list, da-da-da. So I was like, this dude, he full of shit. He ain't gonna have that. He ain't that big. That's Magic's game. And sure enough, we got tickets to the Midsummer Night Magic game. And we got into the Century Club. And we walked past like hundreds of people. I mean, I can't tell how many fine girls like, hey, who are y'all? They didn't know who we was.
Yeah.
Because we weren't NBA guys at that time. I wasn't an NBA player at that time. I was a college player. But we walked in there, boy. Say, I never got tested. Thank you, boy. Oh, Lord. Oh, Lord. I got to keep a happy home right now. Say, I can't tell y'all the things you got me into that night, boy. Woo! Memories, baby.
What? And this is the deal. That was a game. That's right. That was you were about to be a pro.
Yep.
I was the game that Magic let me play in. And I'm playing against Karl Malone. And people are like, man, you playing like this is the season. I said, I don't get to just ball out.
Yeah.
Like, I can ball, but my job is stay up there above the foul line, get offensive rebounds, play defense, block shots, score if you get a rebound. That was the rule. And Chuck Daly said, that's what I need. I said, well, that's what I can do. Because I knew you get in where you fit in on this Piston team. And everything was important, right? If you're a front wheel or back wheel or a transmission or like everything about this car you need to do in order for it to work. So I had to give up that mentality that I can get 18 to 25 a game. This ain't college. You're going to get it off the rim if you're going to get it because they're not going to pass it to you. I had to convince Isaiah to throw me alley-oops. Because I'm not good at that. I was like, who said they're not good at that? I'm not good at it. If I throw the ball toward the rim, Sal, it's a shot. But he wound up doing it every once in a while. He got it hooked up to me. But I'm glad that I looked out for y'all. And no one realized that I would do things. Like if people thought, like you said, I was going to be no, man, like you got to, I took Dennis Scott. This is a true statement. Dennis Scott, going into the second championship in 1990, I brought him into Detroit and hung out with him the weekend before he had to decide whether he was going to go back to Georgia Tech or go to the pros. Well, he got there on a Friday, and I think he left on a Monday morning, and he went to the press conference and said, I am turning my name in to be an NBA player.
Because you took him out and showed him what the NBA lifestyle was.
I said, if you stay there, you making them money. You come here, you make you money, and this is what you can have. And it was gold and glitter and everything you could possibly want or enjoy.
Yeah, I'll never forget that, bro. I was just talking about that a couple weeks ago. I'm like, man, the things I saw there, because that became a regular occurrence then. Like I was going all the time. I was there when they had it at Magic Mountain. I was oh man, woo, whoa, oh Lord. And you know what's crazy too? I was just telling somebody this. Like this was like before Halle Berry was a star. All these people that we see now that are stars were up and coming. They weren't who we see now. Martin Lawrence. Yeah. Martin Lawrence was struggling at the time. He's cousins of a friend of mine in Oklahoma, and he was trying to get on. So we saw these people, Sal, before they were who they are now, which is cool.
So 1991. So I'm friends with Martin because I wanted to be a comedian. I wanted to be an actor. And they were like, you're a basketball player. I was like, yeah, right now. I'm going to do this for 10 years and I'm coming to Hollywood. I want to be on. So you're right. I'm hanging with Martin. I literally was with Martin at the premiere of his movie, Talking Dirty After Dark, which he still doesn't talk about ever being in. But that's how it was. And when the Bulls came in 1991, I'm working for Inside Stuff. I'm going, we're going to the game. I'm going to do something. He goes, yeah, I got tickets. He had his Bull jacket on. He was like, I was talking. He was like, so quiet, Sal, we got to focus. We got to give them the energy. I was like, you in the stands, bro. They don't even know you're here. I was like, you think they paying attention to you? No, they're just working. They don't have time to pay attention. Biggest Micheal Jordan fan you could ever see. And he was my boy. Arsenio, too. Arsenio was my guy, but he was a Laker fan. I was like, y'all don't realize I just do this for a living.
Yeah.
I don't. I'm not a blood or a crip. This is not my life, gang. I'm just here to. This is all I do. Besides that, take me around, show me. So you're right, Halle Berry. Spike had Halle Berry. It was at a Jungle Fever premiere. It's her first movie, and she came up to me after the movie, and I wouldn't even talk to her. She was cute, but she wasn't. I was like, nah, you a crackhead. She was like, no, that's just the role I played in the movie. I said, Spike hired real people. You a crackhead.
They weren't character actors, baby.
No. Samuel Jackson just got out of rehab, and you a crackhead. So I believed it.
Oh, my God.
Well, John, obviously your plan was successful after you left the NBA. You've had a remarkable career in TV and films and hosting talk shows and doing everything. Has it even exceeded your wildest dreams?
It did. And let me tell you, for any dreamer out there, as Dave Chappelle would call it, when you dream, when you have a dream, don't let it end. Because I got to a point where I had done everything I ever said I was going to do. And then you go, so now what? Like, what do you do now? And do you keep doing it? Are you interested in doing it? How are you interested in doing it? So now I produce films that I'm in. I produce films, documentary. I got a documentary coming out called Longevity Hackers. I eat a plant-based diet since 1991. And I've been doing it, 30 years now, 29 years now. And I can show, I found out that I was doing it right. I feel I was doing it right. So showing people how that food is the fuel, how it works in your body, how to stay alive long. 7-footers usually don't live that long. I'm pushing it right now. I'm pushing 60. And that usually is an age. I remember I went to the NBA and I told them the chances of a 7-footer living past 60 is slim and none. And in 2016, 11 NBA players died from congestive heart failure. So I was a part of Heart Healthy and just, moving in that direction. So now my dreams are to make movies that I can look back at one day, like Bad Boys. We got Bad Boys 4 coming out on Father's Day. Look, I'm working for the studio right now. We got Bad Boys 4 coming out. And, I did a movie called Sneakerella with Disney. So just me doing things and picking films that I want to be in and people I want to work with, that's a new part of my dream.
Now comes the fun part. We got
my podcast is coming out this month too.
We talked about that. We talked about that. Yeah. Make sure you let me know when it comes out. I'll be happy to come on there with you too, brother.
Yeah, thank you very much, Stacey. I will definitely have you on there. And I'm glad that those two guys to your right and left don't talk a lot. They're just
Well, this guy right here, he just learned English.
We got to let him ask a question though, because you never know what he's going to say.
This comes the time of the show. We never know where he's getting his research at. He'll come up with like the oddest question, but it's always on point. So this is Timmy Whispers. That's why he got the name, because he didn't talk. Timmy Whispers. Go ahead, Timmy Whispers.
No, say I was fully entertained because I thought I was like a part of the audience there.
Oh, we lost him.
Oh no! See, he just said
he lost the planet.
He said if Whispers is going to ask a question, I'm out.
It's not the first time. Click.
Do we lose him, D?
No, I'm right here.
No,
okay,
I'm right here.
Go ahead, ask your question, Tim.
Hey, first of all, I got to tell you, Sale, thanks for selling my cigars back in the 90s. I used to have a cigar business, and you sold my stuff at your place in Wilmette there. And you and I had a couple cigars there years ago. Patron, I know, is your big cigar.
That's right. Padron Anniversario.
Yeah.
Maduro. In case you want to buy some Diplomatico, if you want to, since I usually get paid to be on TV, Stacey, you can always buy me a box of cigars.
Hey, baby, we got something better there. We got hot sauce, baby.
Stacey's
Yeah, I
signature
love that
sauce.
hot sauce.
But so I do appreciate that. But I just got to ask you about one of your comments, because I've seen it on T-shirts and stuff, that Larry Bird is the blackest white dude you've ever met in your life.
100%. Larry Bird is Babe Ruth. He was passing. He just y'all didn't realize this is a black dude who was wearing whiteface. That's exactly what I would say. And when they ask me the greatest players, I always say his name is Irving Larry Bird Johnson. Like I'd still have nightmares if I had to play against Larry, because Chuck Daly would be like, hey, Sal, we're going to put you on Larry. Everybody stay on your man. I'd be like, no, help me. Like, help me. It don't make a difference which way I push him. He's going to score. And he would talk and talk and talk. That's why Dr. J punched him in his mouth. He didn't realize he was talking, and he looked around. He was like, I keep hearing a black guy talking, but it's this white guy in front of me. It was Larry talking smack, just like he was one of the crew. Definitely.
So speaking of smoke too, tell us a little bit about your daughter's business.
Oh, so my daughter and I started a cannabis business, and right now we're in 7 dispensaries here. It's called Deuces 22, my basketball number, except in Detroit. Some guy has the name Deuces 22, and he's trying to hold my feet to the fire. Look, brother, I'm going to call it Spider 22 when we get to Michigan. But we, like what I said, I learned to make television. So in the making of this brand, I filmed everything. So we were trying to destigmatize the attitude and the mentality of cannabis. 26 states or 25 states now have legal cannabis, either recreational or medical, and we just jumped into it. But we're about to hopefully jump out of it, because by the time the pharmaceuticals get involved, we're selling a brand. But we are working on this sale of the brand. It was a great run since 2016. I'm ready to do something else. But yeah, my whole deal also is I didn't smoke weed until my last month as a Laker. And when I did, I couldn't believe how great my body felt, to the point where I slept for 10 straight hours. I was late to the bus. So Stacey, you know how Phil is. Phil said the bus at 11. That means be on the bus at, 10:30, 10:40. Yep. I got to that bus at 5 minutes to 11, got on the bus, walking. They were like, OD, what's the deal? I sat down and I said to my teammate who handed it to me, what was that? Do y'all smoke that every night? I don't have a back pain. And I always say, if I would have smoked cannabis the way that I do now, or I understand it, I played till I was 36, and I quit because, Jerry Krause didn't. Because Phil Jackson told me he didn't have any more real estate. And I don't like losing. And I knew they were going to win again. So there was no reason for me to be on a losing team. I didn't want to go anywhere else. And I could have played at 30, 42, 40, 43 the way I played, but I didn't. So I just stayed in shape instead. I told Phil that. I said to Phil, why'd you cut me? And he goes, well, I didn't have any more real estate on the squad. I couldn't do this. And he said, you did all right. I go, yeah, I smoked weed all summer. Thank you very much.
Oh my goodness, boy! You still wild and crazy. You still wild and crazy, boy. It was great seeing you. It was great seeing you, man. I'm glad you came back. I'm glad you came back. I'm glad everybody came back. It was a great event, and just like everybody being there, it just felt like old times. Like even though you haven't seen certain guys in 10, 12, 15 years, it didn't seem that long when everybody was in the same room.
Yeah, and I was so happy to be there with Artis Gilmore. See, Artis didn't realize. This is what I mean. I literally would play Monday, Wednesday, Friday, or I would switch it up left-handed. So I would try to do everything left-handed. I would try to write left-handed, eat left-handed, dribble left-handed. When I was little, kids thought I was weird, but Artis Gilmore broke his right wrist, so he had to play left-handed. So he's really right-handed, but if you watch Artis, he played left-handed. And I realize if I jump and you jump and I got the ball in my left hand, I'm going to dunk on you.
Yeah.
It's a quicker way up to the basket. So like I said, I would go left and throw left hand hook shots or go off the basket. And Coach Crimmins at Georgia Tech, when he was recruiting me, said, one of the things I saw that you had fundamentals and you can use both hands, which they thought was a great thing, until I saw Dominique Wilkins. You can cut off his left hand and he's still going to score 50.
Yep.
So I understood it, but that was just to be in that room with Artis Gilmore and Boogie Love. I was so happy to be there and see these cats, and I always liked it. I always felt Chicago, if I would have been there from the beginning, I would have never left. Well, Krause would have probably traded me, but if I had a choice, I would have never left. Never.
Well, John, thank you so much for joining us. Best of luck with the new podcast and all your ventures in film. And it was wonderful having you back in Chicago. And thanks a lot for joining us on the Gimme the Hot Sauce podcast. We got hot sauce coming your way.
We're going to get your address.
It's organic. It's natural.
Yeah,
it'll fit with
organic and natural. We're going to send you 4 flavors. And we got our little...
4 flavors of hot sauce?
Yeah, man. We got salsa verde if you like the Mexican flavor. We got a mild red with garlic, with a little garlic twist in it. We got a barbecue sauce that's got a little twang to it.
And Chicago Fire.
And then if you really like the hot sauce, then we got Chicago Fire 1871, which will burn your socks off.
Oh, my daughters and my wife would love that kind. I was going to do, I had a couple of vegan restaurants, and when I got into packaging, I was going to do all these different things that you just said. And now that I know you can make money doing it, yes. I will be knocking off your door.
Well, we're gonna send you some. We got our hot sauce packer, Timmy Whisper. That's one thing he can't do, is he can pack some hot sauce.
Thanks a lot.
What a great way to end an interview, John. Thank you so much.
That's all I got.
You.
All right, Spider. Be good, boy.
All right. Peace.
We'll be back to wrap things up on Give Me the Hot Sauce.
Oh, Packer you.
Well, Spider Salley sounds intrigued by the hot sauce. Let's get Christopher Walken in to tell folks at home how they can get their bottle.
It's not hard, Mark. You just got to go to the website, put in some codes, get some free sauce. It's easy. And as you were telling Mr. Spider, that you can burn your socks off with the hot one, but you get it for free too by putting in Walken Fire, WALKEN Fire. I hope I don't have to spell that for you people. That's ridiculous.
So you think you could hang with John Salley?
I could. I met him once at a party. I brought some kittens. He didn't appreciate it.
What do you think of Whisper cigars? Do you like them back in the day?
Of course. I had some. I even had some back in the day on that boat that I'm still accused of committing some crimes. But that's a long story.
Natalie Wood.
That's right.
Oh, my God.
I had nothing to do with that.
Oh, my God.
I may have been an alibi.
It's off the rails.
Yeah.
It's off the rails. Oh, Bob Wagner somewhere saying to himself, thank you. It
was Christopher Walken all along.
It was Christopher Walken all along.
Yeah.
Oh, my goodness.
And we were playing a little Russian roulette in the cabin, and then she had to go. I don't know what was wrong.
He's taking this too far.
Oh, my goodness.
And she had some hot sauce.
Hey, and don't forget, for all your Chicagoland listeners and viewers, you can go to your local Jewel Osco, where the product is proudly displayed wherever you get your favorite brands of hot sauces. You want to try it out. This is great stuff.
It is great. Once you buy one bottle, you'll be one to buy 5.
And remember, she'll like it too.
And she'll like it too, America. It's saucy.
Want to tell you about one of our other great sponsors, our buddy Jeff VUKOVICH. When it comes to insurance for your auto, home, and business, make sure you contact our good friend who treats you like royalty, nationwide agent Jeff VUKOVICH. You can reach him at jeffvuk.com. That's VUK.com. Phone number 847-825-4783. And he has the best jingle in the business, courtesy of Stacey King.
Nationwide is on your side.
Wow, nicely done. We could get you an audition for one of John's movies. You know?
Hey,
Speaking of saucy.
Saucy. All right, now one of our favorite times. We tell you what we're watching, sometimes good, sometimes bad. We're all in agreement. We love Reacher, which is coming near the end of the season.
It's coming near the end of the season, man.
He is still taking names and kicking ass.
Oh man, he's not even apologizing for killing people.
But how he just says it.
He just says, "Yeah, we gotta go kill some more people. We got a couple more people we gotta kill."
Yeah,
right for the little girl. Like,
yeah, if you haven't seen it, America, it's a great show. Forget the Tom Cruise Reacher; it was good. But Tom Cruise is not believable according to the book. The book is Reacher is like 6'4", 6'5", monster of a guy. Like this guy could actually be the Incredible Hulk if you really think about it. If you paint him green, he actually could be the Incredible Hulk. Dude is like ripped. I guess he was a real Air Force person. He was in the military.
Right?
Yeah, he was in the military. So and he's a believable actor. You know, he's a believable actor. And they do a good job of explaining why things are the way they are. You know why? You know, for instance, this season's episode is about his castmates, his company.
110 special investigators.
Yes. They were all these special investigators, and they all of a sudden they starting to disappear. If you haven't watched it, I'm sorry, I just gave you.
No, they tell you that right off the top. So you're not really giving anything away.
Yeah. It's the first episode, but America, if you haven't watched it, watch it.
It's on Prime, so check it out. Reacher is outstanding. I think that he was on the Teen Titans, you know, the old DC Comics. They had that series for a while on HBO. He was on there, but he got too big.
He also was on Fast and the Furious. He was like an FBI agent with Rock. And then he turned and he was a corrupt cop or something.
Right.
Yeah. That's when I first saw him.
Was it Rick Atchison? Is that his name?
Oh,
Rick Atchison?
Oh, no. You got a better memory than me.
Yeah, I thought you were going to start singing Never Gonna Give You Up. That's a different one.
Close.
Oh,
Rick Astley. That'd be Rick Astley.
That's what he looks like.
Yeah,
That's what he looks like. I'm never going to give you up.
Never going to let you
go.
Big voice for a little guy with red hair.
Wait, so none of you have seen Blue Mountain?
No, I haven't seen it.
It's like a college TV show.
Oh, yeah.
He's Chad. You've never heard of Chad?
No, I never watched that show.
God, you have to watch it. It's like that's where everyone knows him from.
Okay.
He was like the jock linebacker who like everyone like going to. The girls loved them and like
I need to know, but Blue Mountain didn't last long though.
There's a movie and a couple seasons. It was good in my opinion.
Okay, that was one of our child actors right there. Just jumped in on the news with a special.
Well, at least he gave us a sounder, so he knew he was going to talk. That was well done.
Way to go, D. Dangerous D, right there, baby.
He looks just like a guy I went to high school with, Brett Matheson, who became the main attraction for the Chippendales. So it has something to do with that look. And that's
weird reference there.
I don't want to hear about the Chippendales.
Yeah.
Wow.
He invited me out a couple times too to be a server.
Okay. Oh,
those were some good nights too. I wasn't in the NBA.
You and Chris Farley?
I had to do stuff like that.
Chris Farley. He was
a little bit. I didn't look like him, but I danced
all
like him.
All red and oiled up. Ugh, that's a sight.
Hey, some ladies like that.
Hey, there's a new season of True Detective out on HBO. Jodie Foster plays the lead role. This is set in Alaska, like 100 miles north of the Arctic Circle. There's supernatural forces at work. There's ghosts. It's a crazy show. They've only had one episode so far, but it looks like it's going to be really distinctive. It's not just a murder mystery. They've got supernatural things going, and it's going to be just weird.
That's a twist.
Yeah, no, and Jodie Foster, only one episode so far, but she looks like she's going to be really good in that lead role.
Yep, I hear you.
Clarice, I'll eat his liver with fava beans.
Yeah, she's not a mousy investigator anymore. She's all grown up.
No, she's all grown up.
Yeah. Whispers, you got something else besides Reacher?
Yeah, I've been watching Berlin, which is an extension of the two Money Heist series.
Yeah, how is that?
A little disappointing. I mean, they still do a brilliant heist, but there's way too much relationship stuff.
Who's in it?
So this would be a prequel.
It's a prequel
because he's dead in the.
He's dead.
Yeah.
So.
The old guy.
His whole charm thing is very good. His lady game is good. Of course, they have to.
Wait a minute, hold up, man. Who's dead?
Pedro. It's not Pascal, but he has almost the same name. But Berlin is. He died.
He dies in the Money Heist.
In the Money Heist.
Yeah.
Okay. So
not the first season, but
when he goes back and pulls off a heist in Paris.
He dies.
No, he doesn't die in
this.
No,
because it's before he gets the.
It's a prequel.
Heist. Yeah, prequel.
Oh, I'd never seen the real one.
His name is Pedro Alonso.
Thank you.
That's what I know.
The only bad thing about Money Heist is subtitles.
Yeah, they do a good job dubbing, and sometimes like the laughs are really bad. Yeah. You're like, okay, it's not really funny.
It's like that show. It's like the show Tubi. You ever seen the show? You ever seen like the little app Tubi? It's like Paramount. It's like Prime. It's horrible.
Yeah.
Like the shows they show on there, right?
Why are you watching it then?
No, because somebody told me to watch. He said, you really want to see some bad acting? Go turn on Tubi. So I just wanted to watch it just for giggles. So I see this one episode. A lady hits a guy in the head with a frying pan, and the guy falls down. And then the sounds come. Bing. It's like, or someone shoots a gun.
Yeah.
Get out of here, I'm going to kill you. And then he'll shoot the gun.
5 seconds later.
5 seconds later, the guy, Oh, it's almost like a bad commercial.
Yeah.
Like I cannot, and there's all these movies are like that. I don't know how they get away with that, but it's hilarious.
You have another recommendation this week, Stacey?
No, I really haven't. I mean, I'm trying to, I'm too busy.
All right.
Still catch up on those Kendra Lust films.
Hey, listen, they gotta keep a happy home, man. Don't you might be trying to get me in trouble. See? Yeah, you are.
He took the whole collection with him to Fort Myers.
No. I burned it. I burned it. What's up?
Guys hear me? Okay, so I know this has kind of already been going on, but the Bulls are currently winning 35-22.
Oh, 35-22? Dun, 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 dun. Hey, America, if you notice, I'm not at the game because TNT's doing the game, so the Bulls are winning. So, go
and that
Bullies.
bulletin's going to come in really handy for people listening on Saturday and Sunday. They'll really enjoy that.
Yeah, and it's the end of the first quarter.
Thanks for that, Cisco.
Hey, Mark, speaking of that, and it got brought up numerous times, including with Sale. That was my question for K.C. Johnson. Sometimes timing is perfect, where you saw the booing of Jerry Krause after he's passed along, and it was kind of a terrible moment. But in the same week, they are talking about the second greatest team since then, which would be the Warriors, completely falling apart here mid-season, saying they should have broken this up last year. There's something about that I thought about when I saw that on Stephen A. Smith talking about it. There's a testament, Jerry Krause. Sometimes it's just time, and maybe it was time. You don't know ever exactly, but there's something about that in the same week.
Well,
yeah, a lot of people are talking about breaking up the Warriors.
Well, and at the end of the day, it's still the way they look at this man, after winning 6 championships is ridiculous. It's like I said, there's 10 teams in the NBA. There was 11 after Denver won theirs. So there's 10 teams in the NBA that don't even have one in their building. You don't have one title in your building. And you can come to the UC, you can come to the Avenue, you'll see 6. Okay. Really should have been 8. I keep saying that. It should have been 8 if Michael wouldn't have went to play baseball. It would have been 8 titles. So let that man rest, be respectful, have some civility about it, and just be thankful that we have championships in this city in football, baseball, and basketball and hockey. Has the soccer team won yet? The Fire?
Yeah.
They won the first year.
So this is championship. This is championship city. You know what I'm saying? And again, I took a lot of crap because I said this is not Philadelphia. This is not New York. And on Twitter, I had a battle with all these Philadelphia fans. And they said, oh, we never do that. We never did. So just recently, the Philadelphia Eagles lost yesterday, or a couple of days ago. They lose. The coach is walking off the field. And a Philadelphia Eagle fan threw a bucket of popcorn on top of his head and said, you suck, you're gone. And I'm like, okay, this proves my point. Proves my point.
Well, that is Philly.
Yeah, it's Philly. It's Philly. It's New York, I'm sorry, I didn't really hear you guys say anything, but it is Philly. Philly's to blame. Oh, another one?
No, what we got? No, they're just messing around.
Hey, buddy, there's no time to play on the keyboards, all right? Hey, listen, we're not shooting a music video.
Hey, Cisco, what's the score now for somebody that's listening on Sunday?
Oh my God!
Sorry, I can hear myself in my own headphones.
I was just kidding. That was a rrhetorical question. Stacey, tell the folks how they can take care of their transportation needs before we get out of here.
Let's see. Here we go. Oh, Lord have mercy. Windy
How's
City.
Mike doing?
Mike is coming back soon. Yeah, he's coming back soon. Windy City Limousine provides championship service. Making a reservation is so easy, it's a slam dunk. Let Windy City break the full court pressure of traffic and get you to your destination in style and on time. And contact them at 847-916-9300. That's 847-916-9300. And then go to WindyCityLimos.com.
Hey, D, kill your mic. We'll fix it in editing, okay?
Yeah.
That's going to do it for another edition of the Gimme the Hot Sauce podcast for our great production crew, Dangerous D and Cisco.
Weren't they keeping their brains warm with all these hats on and his unrolled condom, whatever that thing is?
Yeah, I don't know what that is on
Well, it gets a little bit warm in the Sriracha studios as the show goes on.
Yeah, you got to keep a helmet on.
Wow.
So anyway, I hope you enjoyed our guests, K.C. Johnson, John Salley. Very entertaining. Thanks to Stacey for getting these guys to come on board the show.
Hey,
listen, we got more things planned on the road.
We got a lot of fun coming up in the second half of the year. And you never know who's going to stop by the Sriracha studios, but whoever it is going to be entertainment.
There you go. Until then.
Drive home safe to Chicago. Beep, beep.